There is no secret to this. There is no genius insight. There it is. Mickey Mouse Beaver. There's the jerky wall. Hoorah! There's the gummy bear wall. Hoorah! You do just want to go take a picture with the beaver, and they can sell you anything from cow hides to a new ball cap. Let's be the best bathroom you've ever wandered into. Hoorah! You can get the plush toys. You can get the t-shirt. There's a taco making machine. Yeah, Buc-ee's. Check it out. It's pretty darn awesome. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Slant 3D podcast, the show about 3D printing and our place inside the industry. Today we're going to be talking about updates to Teleport, some things coming out around 3D printing materials, just a tiny little bit of news, and then finishing off with talking about Buc-ee's. And if you don't know about this company, has nothing to do with 3D printing, but we're going to talk about it anyway. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and pay the bills. This episode is brought to you by Teleport. Teleport is our 3D print on demand app. You can connect any e-commerce store to it, and we will print and ship items directly to your customers for you. You have access to hundreds of 3D printers instantly for free. All you have to do is upload a model, and whenever you get an order, we will print and ship that item directly to your customer for you. So check out Teleport today at slantpod.com. The link is down in the description. Yeah, Teleport is back open for new signups now. So if you've been waiting to get onto Teleport in order to get access to our print farms, go ahead and run over there and check it out. We have been rolling out version 2 of Teleport over this last week, and there's some additional things that will be breaking loose here over the next week or so. Around additional prototyping and other features. But things like instant refund, the new functionality of it, faster, all of those are in there, and there'll be continuing to be new little features breaking loose here pretty soon. But you will be finding out more about that there too, and a lot more stuff coming out here on the YouTube channel going forward. But we'll come back around to that. Going into the 3D printing news for this week, the big one is BCN3D went out of business this week. So for those who are not familiar, this company was started in 2011 out of a project from the university there in Spain. They've been around, been part of the desktop 3D printing world. BCN3D is really similar to kind of Markforged in that they had kind of more premium sort of machines and all of that stuff. So, but they filed for bankruptcy literally this last week, which was a little bit odd because they've closed an undisclosed amount of funding just 6 months ago. And no one knows the exact reason why they're shutting down. They were theoretically expanding and that kind of stuff. It's tough world out there for middle range kind of premium machines. So Ultimaker, BCN3D, Markforged, anybody who effectively is getting whacked by things like the Bamboo Lab machines. That's kind of the main reason. And then overall kind of global economic problems and challenges and that kind of stuff around tariffs, imports, blah, 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 all the things. So if you're a hardware manufacturer of 3D printing gear, it's a tough go right here. BCN is one of the older companies, one of the more notable companies, so it is disappointing in that regard. They attracted $10 million from private investors and received an additional $7 million in public grants since they had been created. To become open source printers, and that actually is not since they that is not since they were created. That funding may have come since 2019. So anyhow, tough thing. But that is also all the news that we have this week. So we're going to go ahead and move on into general updates. I'll come back to Teleport in just a moment. But update on the prize. We're going through, doing final counts on all that stuff. Technically, by the time this podcast comes out, final decisions and everybody will have gotten their money. If for some reason you feel like, I made it under the wire or something and we missed it or it wasn't in the count or something, go ahead and reach out to us, shoot us a message if you think we missed you. But we think we got everybody evaluated of who hit the $1,000 to win $1,000 in 1 month. The prize went really well. We will probably do it again here. We're planning to do it again here in order to kind of celebrate the new version of Teleport. So a similar sort of thing will probably be created. And we learned a lot of cool stuff. And it was fun to see what everybody was creating. The prize winners will not be publicly announced for privacy reasons. If you are a prize winner and you want to be publicly announced, we reach out to y'all and say, hey, do you want to be communicated about? But we cannot just post folks. That's like saying this person's on Facebook or something. Well, that's not a bad example. Everybody's on Facebook, but that's exposing folks of what they're selling, what their product was, where they're selling it. And a lot of folks don't really like that. Like there's a lot of teleport users who like to use teleport, but like to keep what they're doing kind of private before it gets into the forums and has everybody with a 3D printer show up on Etsy. So the full list won't be announced for protecting all of those sellers and that kind of thing. But no, it went really well. And yeah, we will probably revamp it here again. Teleport itself, like I say, the whole new version of it was released here just really recently, last week. And we've been going through the teething of that. Whenever you release a new product, there's a moment where it's a little bit iffy and that kind of stuff. And we had that because just all the things. You go through all the testing, all the verification of this thing, and then it is used in ways that you do not anticipate, by people who you do not anticipate, at times that you do not anticipate, and at scales that you do not anticipate. But that primary upgrade came through. So teleport is totally free now. You are able to set up with a shipping service and everything else that is totally free if you are just starting out. So the free tier of teleport does not have ancillary subscriptions attached to it. So you can get totally signed up, start selling stuff, not have to pay any baseline subscriptions. The limit on that is 30 orders. When you pass 30 orders, you do have to upgrade the shipping service in order to support it more, otherwise stuff will break. And we're working to get flags in there and that kind of stuff, and those should be popping up by the time you're in there. So yes, teleport is upgraded, so it's totally free. Anybody on the planet should be working with more countries now, more readily. And we will be having a bunch of content coming out about it. Most of the tutorials and that kind of thing are coming out at this moment, because as we do the launch, there are adjustments and tweaks to user flow that we do as a bunch of people start going through it, because we can design the user flow, but then people mess with it. And we also find out what like the core hangups are. I am really proud of the team. Right at the moment, there have not been a lot of hangups. Like all of the things that have been issues are kind of edge cases with the transition of people like moving from the old version to the new version or upgrading their account. So, but teleport, yeah, is really good. Yeah, we're going to break it loose a lot here. So there's going to be a very rapid iteration of new features coming to teleport over the next few weeks. In Slant 3D in general, you're going to see a ramp up in content. You're going to see a ramp up in teleport stuff, all of this kind of thing. Within that, I'll get to that here in discussion topic. Part of the expansion of Slant 3D led to the discussion topic this week. So we'll go ahead and get to that later. One other announcement that I wanted to call out, through Slant, there's a US-based filament manufacturer called 3D Fuel that makes PLA here inside the States and that kind of stuff. They were independent, then they got bought by Ascentium, and then they got bought back and are independent again. 3D Fuel has been working with the PCTG material. It's been around for like 5 years and stuff, and Ascentium was one of the first one to do that, and then 3D Fuel brought it along. 3D Fuel has released a version of PCTG that has chopped carbon fiber inside of it that is just minimal enough in order to rough up the surface a little bit. I want to highlight this because this is a fantastically good thing to do. 3D printing materials are stupidly behind in the very simple solutions that are available. A material can create, the layer lines are not an issue if the material is filled with just a tiny bit of particulate. One of these particulates can be chopped carbon fiber. I personally am a believer in glass beads. You can use glass-filled beads inside of like PLA, and then you get this nice textured finish. It's not matte, it's textured. But they are just a fantastic way to create this beautiful surface finish. And since they're just an addition, they're not actually a colorant, they don't mess with the chemistry of it as much because the layers can still have really good adhesion. Want to give 3D Fuel props for this, for throwing in carbon fiber literally just to create this texture, because it has no functional benefits other than that. It can make it a little bit harder and that kind of stuff. It can be stiffening agent, but other than that, it's not very useful. Glad they're doing this to create effectively a textured matte-ish type of material that's not actually matte. Matte materials are generally garbage for layer adhesion because of the chemical difference. Throwing in these external fillers, these modifiers, is a great way of doing it. And I want to give them props for that. But if you're watching, John, PCTG is still a crap brand name. Also, by the way, I'm gonna harp on this just a little bit more. This is free marketing advice to 3D Fuel. Pro PCTG is worse because I have no idea what Pro is. I actively went to the 3D Fuel site and looked around to figure out what made Pro PCTG different from PCTG. By the way, PCTG is tough to say. No one knows what it is. Turn it a material it's actually somebody can say and is easy to talk about. I don't call Kleenexes fibrous wood soft wipes. I call them a Kleenex. Change the name. Okay, I'm done. And Pro PCTG is not better. Now, the question that a few people have in the follow-up to that is, Gabe, why don't you guys have glass filled inside the PLA in Tangled? The reason for that is that the extruder that is committed to producing stuff for Tangled can't do it. Adding in glass beads, you have the raw resin and then you have the glass beads. You can't just mix them together and extrude them. And the extruder that's used for Tangled is an older style extruder. You have to have it custom compounded. So you have to have the glass beads and that resin put together and then have that create beads and then those beads run through the extruder. We may do it one of these days, but we don't work with a compounder. We just source raw materials and then extrude it. So PLA and PETG and that kind of stuff, we literally work with like injection molding companies to where they are buying train cars of it, and then we take a couple of pallets off from the side of them there, so that it just has more scalable sourcing. But we have less control of the material. We will add in glass fill to it over time, but again, within that, from our core businesses of 3D printing services, people don't know to use those materials or what to expect from those materials. So there's an education gap to where us as a service need to provide what people are using, and people are printing with virgin PLA or PLA Plus, or they need something like that. And having us throw in glass filler beads would jack with it. As to Tangled itself, we would love to produce it for Tangled because it is the right way of doing it. We just don't have time right now, and Tangled is stupid focused on the core stuff that we've done. Tangled right now, oh yeah, we're still not accepting new signups for Tangled. Tangled signups should open up again, well, probably in about 2 weeks is when we'll have that up again. We're taking, just a beat here to make sure that we're keeping everybody up and happy. And then we'll be opening back up again, and we have a bit of machinery coming in that will help accelerate that a bit. Okay. Let's see here. I'm checking my thing. Okay. 2 topics here. Over this last week, I was not here. I was someplace else shopping for factories. And there were a couple of things that I took from that trip. Not only where are we going to put our next factory, which we'll talk about at some point, but it was an interesting fact-finding mission because I go there to look at the facilities, but I also go there to look at the towns. And it's always really tough to tell what a town is because you got to be able to talk to people and live there and interact with it. And as I was running through it, I had an epiphany of a certain way of doing this because it's generally very difficult. If you want to know what a town is like, you can kind of talk to a bartender, but they don't always know and don't always engage with you in that kind of a way. You can talk to some local person that you run into. If you're really gregarious, you can find a random person on the street, but they're just a random person. You can talk to the Chamber of Commerce, but they're going to say their town is amazing. You can talk to the realtor, but they're going to say their town is amazing. So I was like, what is the most truthful way to understand how a city or a town operates? And I figured it out. It's a bookstore. And now this is not only just because I enjoy going to bookstores, but a bookstore has someone in it who's generally a small business owner or somebody who works there. The person who works there is generally some kid who's paid minimum wage because bookstores don't make any money. So the kid is living life in that town and has aspirations and dreams, but is also educated. So if you work in a bookstore, you decided to work in a bookstore. You decided not to, you had some idea of what it was. You generally didn't go there because that was the alternative to the McDonald's job that you picked. You decided, I want to work at a bookstore. which number one gives that person a level of intentionality and observation that is better than the average person. Hopefully, they're also kind of well read, so they know what the world is outside of what is shown on TikTok. And since there's no one in bookstores, they're available to talk. And they're open to talking because it's not a weird social situation. If I leaned up and started talking to the McDonald's barista or whatever it was and said, hey, tell me about this town, they'd be like, who the hell are you, crazy person? But if you do that at a bookstore, they're open about it. So if you want to understand a town, go into a used small bookstore, just a small bookstore, and talk to whoever is at the front counter because they are available, they know, they're observant of it, and they're kind of educated about stuff, and they have an insight around it because, again, they have kind of higher quality people come through, people who are engaged, who are reading books, who also have opinions and share them around. They have book clubs and whatever it was. They see authors come from other towns. There's a lot of insight that can come from that. So that's what I did. I was at a used bookstore when I was here on this trip, and I got to talk to the gal there at the front desk, and it was delightful. And I got to learn so much about the town, from the neighborhoods around to why it ended up that way, to who the mayor was, to all these sorts of different things that I couldn't get gleaned together from the bartender or the real estate agent and that kind of stuff. And it was serendipitous in that moment, but now it's on my checklist whenever I go to a new town. I'm going to go to the bookstore. I'm going to ask the person there. I'm going to buy a book for $20, and then I'm going to ask the person, hey, tell me about this place. And they'll tell you. They also, again, local bookstores get the history of the town. They always have like a rack of books of like local authors, history of the town, this, that, and the other stuff. Here's the newspaper. So they just have information that isn't always really Googleable even. So it's such a unique opportunity to where I just want to share this nugget for anybody who's thinking about moving or thinking about putting a plant in a different town like we are. This seems like an amazing hack for very quickly getting the information that you want without any pretense attached to it. Because they have no dog in the fight of you buying one book today or a lifetime of books because you moved there. They don't care. So it's a really good way of getting educated information about a place from somebody who knows and has no dog in the fight. So yeah, use that. Another thing from this trip. I went to a Buc-ee's for the first time. If you do not know what a Buc-ee's is, Google it. I'll tell you right now. Buc-ee's is a rest stop, gas station, Costco. That's what it is. It has a very cult-like following in the American South because they range from Texas kind of east through like Alabama and Georgia. I needed to pull up the places they'd gone. They only started going out of Texas in 2019, but like they're fairly well known. If you are driving through the highways of the South, they're generally like 20 miles outside of some town, generally a major town like Nashville, Boston, freaking Georgia, Atlanta, whatever it is. The Buc-ee's is fascinating, and you should see it. Because it's a very, very simple business that benefits from all the simple parts of business. The background of okay, let me give you some more thing. Let me describe Buc-ee's. You're driving down the highway, you see the sign, Buc-ee's, over on the right. Mascot is a cartoon beaver wearing a ball cap. Okay, friendly beaver, there it is. Mickey Mouse beaver, there you go. You take the exit, you turn off the road to go into Buc-ee's. There is a line of cars that slows you down. You get behind somebody and then you snake in this row of cars and then go to where you are. When you drive in, most of us are used to gas stations with about 6, 12 pumps there. Buc-ee's has about 100 pumps in that row. So like rows of 4 and about 30 or 40 or 50 rows of them. I didn't count them when I was there, but 40, 50 rows of them. So you definitely find a pump immediately, even though line in there. But that's not what it is. You definitely find a pump, you get filled up, gas is fine, all the rest of it. There's also a ton of parking around it, because when you go into the Buc-ee's convenience store, it is a retail store. It is this massive, not warehouse, but just massive retail space. It's like walking into a mall that's just open floor plan. And it's sectioned off. There's the jerky wall, there's the gummy bear wall, there's barbecue in the middle of the store that is right to the left after you pass the cash registers when you enter. There's the Western section, there's all the Buc-ee's merch that's actually not terrible. There is just all the stuff in there. So all the gas station fare, you can go get your candy bar and your whatever else it was, but there's a taco making machine, the barbecue, all this stuff that you would expect in a place like Costco. But again, you go get your barbecue sandwich and all this other stuff that's made fresh right there. The folks say, barbecue up, and everybody says, hoorah! And then the guy chops it up and he says, sauce up, and everybody says, hoorah! And then it goes there. It's really fun, and it's fascinating to watch. I am fascinated by retail stores and how they lay themselves out. Buc-ee's is very well merchandised in how they present stuff and where it is in relation to each other. It's really well done. So that's the experience. You go into Buc-ee's, you can get whatever you want. You could stop by Buc-ee's on just a normal day just for the sake of going to Buc-ee's. You don't have to go there as a gas station. If you go into the bathrooms are immaculate. They say world famous bathrooms across the top. They're not wrong. Buc-ee's actively and part of their brand has a couple folks in the bathroom who are just continuously cleaning it. So they are always immaculate. And then you can drive out and you leave, and they have markers on the road that direct you how to get out because it's a big parking lot, and they don't put up signs like it's on the road, so you just follow the line and you can make it. Like, all of it is delightful. There's no low-grade suck in any part of the experience. This is why this is such an interesting business. Well, before I get to why this business is so interesting, let me give the background of Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's started out in Texas. I have these notes because I need to have dates. It was started in Texas in 1982 by Arch Beaver Applin III and Don Wasick. They started out as just a small 3,000-foot convenience store. So the typical sort of 7-Eleven thing that you run into. But they always had Buc-ee right from the start. Right from the start, they prioritized cleanliness, customer service, and kind of the unique offerings and stuff they had in there from a very early stage. But this is 1982. This is 2025 right now that we're talking about. So they're almost 40 years old. They are 40 years old. I can't math. They're almost 45 years old. They've been doing it a long time to be where they are right now. So they start with a 3,000-foot thing. It wasn't, in 2012, they won America's Best West Room, and then they started to do kind of more custom items, like their beaver nuggets and that kind of thing. And then in 2003, they opened its first large format travel center in Texas, which is the thing I went to, the 100 pumps. And it was in 2019 was their first out-of-state location. So started in Texas and then went to Alabama in 2019. As of 2025, Buc-ee's operates 50 locations across several states: Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Missouri, South Carolina, Tennessee, Colorado. Colorado's a weird one. North Carolina, Mississippi, Ohio, Virginia, Louisiana, Arkansas, Arizona, Kansas, Wisconsin, Oklahoma. Okay. This is the 40 years to get to an overnight success. I have known about Buc-ee's for probably about 4 or 5 years. Never been able to get down to one. This was the first time going into it, so I was definitely going to check it. But Buc-ee's has been around a long time, just grinding away, and now they are finally breaking into this kind of national brand status. Texas, by the way, has lots of Texan brands. There is H-E-B, which is the Texas grocery store / Walmart kind of thing that is exclusively I don't know if it's exclusively in Texas. It might go some other places. But Texas votes every year about whether they secede from the United States. So they remain independent. For something to leave Texas and break out into the rest of the states doesn't happen all the time. Plus, Texas is big. You can stay busy down there. But Buc-ee's has been around for a long time working on this stuff. Here is why it's such an interesting business. No part of it is secret, proprietary, or unknown, or unobvious. All of it is blatantly obvious. I am driving down the highway. I am going to need to stop for gas. Okay, first thing, when I go to a gas station on a busy highway, I always have to wait for a pump. Well, not always, but often. Have to wait for a pump. That's irritating because some idiot, you gotta watch them fiddle around with the thing. You don't know if they're coming back out with their candy bar. They're in the way all the time. So right off the bat, I am angry with the situation. If the pump is available, fine. I get the pump, whatever it was, fill up my car, cool. Now I'm gonna go into the restroom. It is a cliche that gas station restrooms are the worst on the planet. So Buc-ee said, okay, well, gas station bathrooms are the worst on the planet. Let's be the opposite of that. Let's be the best bathroom you've ever wandered into. What an amazing idea. What a crazy idea. So, number one, make sure there's always a pump that I can get to so I can immediately get my gas going. And I don't feel anxious about being in someone else's way if I leave my car in front of the gas station. You don't be a jerk and wait 2 hours, but you don't have to feel bad about it, as in a normal gas station. You then can go in, use a restroom that is clean, legitimately clean, renowned for being clean. Wow, you have already just created the best gas station. Now, you wrap on top of that the store itself. Now it becomes a very interesting retail play. In retail, you want people to get to your store. Buc-ee's, because it is a destination gas station, has people coming to the store. So they have people who are driving, want a snack, and you can now upsell them from just the gas, which is very profitable as it is, and you're doing it at scale, to now upselling them to the beaver nuggets and these other things. You're now a retail store where your milk that everybody has to go get is the gas that everybody driving by has to get. This is so great because now you're optimizing a retail store. What are things that we can sell inside of here? What do people want? Can we do private label? Buc-ee's does private label, so they have profitable, standard kind of foodstuffs inside of there, which again, not a secret. Every retailer does it. Buc-ee's is just a retailer that has customers driving by from wherever. So they get people in the door with an awesome gas station, and then they have a retail store, and they can sell you anything from cow hides to a new ball cap or a branded beaver. Again, all known. And then Buc-ee's took it to the next level of not just simply being a retail store, but actually being a brand. They built the brand. They cultivate the brand. Inside, Buc-ee the beaver mascot is wandering around. You can take pictures with him. You can get the plush toys. You can get the t-shirt, all this kind of stuff. So you can engage with Buc-ee's. And quite frankly, I have no idea what the Buc-ee's brand is outside of wholesome values, staying clean and tidy, and having a little bit of fun with the whole thing. That seems to be Buc-ee values from my one interaction with the store. That's how I describe it. Because it's a little bit absurd. The whole thing is a little bit absurd when you describe it, which makes it fun and interesting. To where, yeah, you do just want to go take a picture with the beaver, because why not? You're at this giant gas station that has clean bathrooms. This is awesome, and none of this is secret. And all of it, but what it took, what it required, was doing it for 40 years, starting with a tiny little convenience store that probably almost went broke 20 different times and having to do it for 40 years. A few years ago, they got new investment in order to help this out-of-state expansion and that kind of stuff. Who knows what Buc-ee's is worth? I have no doubt that they're a billion-dollar brand with 50 of these mega stores around. Oh, they're definitely a billion-dollar brand, multi-billion-dollar brand. It would be ridiculous if they weren't. But none of this is unknown. There is no secret to this. There is no genius insight. Gas station bathrooms are nasty. Let's make sure we keep ours clean. Then people, when they have the option between us and gas that is 2 cents cheaper, they'll be like, I want to not feel like I'm gonna get a disease from walking into the bathroom. I have kids here. I want them to not be playing in the toilet of whatever drunk puked in it 2 weeks ago. That's the kind of thing. It's very simple. It's very simple, but it takes a really long time to build up that reputation and maintain it, because it's really easy to take the shortcut and say they have to have bathroom attendants stand by, cleaning it continuously, who stand idly at some point. No doubt, I don't doubt it. But now that they're working and that it has been working and they got over the humps and they did those simple things for a long time, now they're enormous. And they, again, have this another obvious business benefit. They're enormous. They're gonna get deals on gas. They get deals on private label food. They have enough people going by to where the attendants in the bathroom are busy all the time, no doubt. So they are very efficient and not standing around on their hands all the time. Just all of it works because they did it for a really long time doing very simple things. And I love this so much because it's so antithetical to, I work in technology. No one does anything for a long period of time. No one does the same thing for a long period of time. And some things are non-obvious. You're looking to innovate and create something new that people will want. So it's so awesome to see a business that is really simple. This is why we like Tangled, and we've talked about this with Tangled before. Like, Tangled is one of these simple businesses. Make it cheaper, make it better, and make people not miserable about the situation. That's what we try to do with Tangled. But Buc-ee's is such a perfect and pure example of this that I just wanted to highlight it. Has nothing to do with 3D printing. We'll probably cut this video out, throw it somewhere else or something, and I'm sure half of you guys have clicked away already. Don't care. This is something that I want to put down for anybody who's interested in this kind of thing, because it is so worth realizing. You win if you are creating something, if you can A, do it for 10 years and do the obvious things well. Try not to make people's lives miserable. If there's something that's obviously making people miserable and you are capable of fixing it, fix it. And very often it's very obvious what it is. It's something resulting from laziness or indifference. If you can just be active about it by actually doing something about it, rather than saying, oh, I hope somebody fixes that one day, or whining about the dirty gas station bathroom, just go make a gas station that's clean. And it's amazing how good that does it for you. And you can look at that in everything in your life if you're looking to create a company of some sort. Find a simple thing and just do it really well for an extended period of time. And when you create it, make it feasible to do it for a long period of time. Make sure that it's viable to work for this for 10 years until it starts to get going, because it compounds and it grows over time to where you start with a nothing little store in Texas, and then 40 years later you have a multi-billion-dollar empire that YouTubers are talking about with such wonderful appreciation for how it is done and how they've consistently done it. And now you're a case study that everybody else can look at. So that's my thing with Buc-ee's. I wanted to bring up Buc-ee's. Again, this is something I have absolute certainty from the analytics of this channel that the vast majority of people who watch this are not near a Buc-ee's. But for those of you who are, thank you, go enjoy it. I'm jealous of you, the fact that you have one of these things around. And any of you who are visiting in any of those states that I mentioned before, go check out a Buc-ee's. You really should. And just look around and appreciate what it took to get there. It was 40 years, a lot of hard work, and I'm sure a ton of misery. And it's an awesome thing. And it's cool to see somebody doing an awesome thing with really simple steps. Great companies do this. Costco, Buc-ee's. We aspire to try to do this, and it's so easy to get away from it because you get distracted by the day-to-day things that break you, from the shortcuts that you can take that you think are just little things, but they create low-grade suck for people, to just ignoring or faking or being arrogant about it or whatever else it was. All these things that create a bad scenario to where you can't do simple things for 40 years and then you fail. Yeah, Buc-ee's. check it out. It's pretty darn awesome. Okay, everybody, that's all we've got today. If you have any questions, we'll circle back around on questions next week and get those answered for you. The rules are you have to say question, whatever it is, underneath the video there, and we'll dig them up and run through them here in this coming week. Let us know if there's any topics that you want us to cover here on podcast, and I'll see you in a week. Have a great day, everybody.